This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
We're not going to be able to handle this responsibly, are we? We just not going to be. I should just give up all hope I have in OTAs and training camps being handled responsibly. I am seeing the reaction to minicamp. And I've seen people already refer to OTA stats, and a part of me died. Somebody was like, yeah, man, this quarterback had this many touchdowns and that quarterback had that many touchdowns in the OTA practice. And goodness, it's going to be a long off season. This is going to be a long one. But a lot of stuff happened. OTAs, some conversations about who's there, who's not, as always. Look, we'll start with that. Who was there, who was not? I think David Njoku was not there. Greg Newsome was not there. Oddly enough, Deontay Johnson was not there. Myles Garrett wasn't there. Joe Bitonio wasn't there. There was a bunch of people not there. Now, look, I said it in the video I dropped this morning. Well, not this morning. I think last night. I do not care about any 3 techs that ain't there, any edge rushers that ain't there, and any offensive linemen that ain't there. I do not care. OTAs, especially the first week of OTAs, are useless for those players. I saw somebody making a big stink about Myles not being there because they're like, oh, well, how's Myles going to build camaraderie? Everybody knows Myles Garrett at this point, right? Like, these guys aren't new. David Njoku's not new. David Njoku's been here his entire career. Myles Garrett's been here since 2018. Joe Bitonio has been here for a very, very long time. They have nothing to gain from coming to OTAs. They will have plenty of time to meet the rookies and have fun conversations with them. They'll do it over the summer during the break before training camp starts, and they will show up to the mandatory portion, no doubt, to OTAs. There's no benefit from being there this week for those guys. Now, somebody like Deontay Johnson, that's a bit of a questionable absence because I'm like, oh, man, like, you do benefit. You're new to the team. You play a position that actually gets work in OTAs. I'm kind of surprised Deontay Johnson ain't out there. Like, that's not a great sign for Deontay. But offensive linemen, defensive linemen, I do not care who is there or not. Honestly, as far as I know, only people who should really be there, offense and defensive linemen, are people still on their rookie deals. Like, if you a vet and you got a second contract, then I don't really care if you're there at OTAs or not. It's not going to affect a single damn thing. There's not a lot of work to be had there. I really don't care till the pads get on for those positions. So anybody making a big stink about Myles not showing up to OTAs, we know the grift at this point, man. People been running this same grift on Myles, this same line of attack on Myles Garrett that they ran on Joe Thomas and any player who's good and has earned the right to maybe not show up for that first week of OTAs. It is never important as the people who swear it's important makes it out to be, because they never make these points about players they like. If Nick Chubb wasn't at OTAs, nobody would care, right? Same thing. Joe Bitonio's not there either. You're not going to see a bunch of people making a big stink about Joe Bitonio not being there, that Joe Bitonio's festering a losing culture, right? Tom Brady ain't even show at the OTAs all the time, man. So, like, right now we looking at Pittsburgh. They ain't even got a quarterback signed for OTAs right now. So, like, I don't know if people are having the discourse this year, but just in case people are, I want to make my 2 cents clear, and this is a standing statement, and this is true pretty much from now until I say it's not. I do not care about offensive linemen and defensive linemen being at OTAs. It is not important. If you think it's important, I disagree. And there's nothing you're going to do to convince me, because you're wrong. It doesn't matter. There's nothing about it that matters. It barely matters for the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the tight ends. It barely matters. Like, it's not that big of a difference. But if the NFL eliminated OTAs entirely, we would not see a difference on the field. It would be very slight. It's not a difference maker, right? It's something on the calendar to make sure that the NFL stays relevant for 365 days. That's what OTAs is. It's a fun thing where we get to see the rookies and the vets mingle for the first time. It's not a super serious part of the preseason regimen that can't be replicated or replaced in a different portion of the offseason is my point. Like, the work you do in OTAs, it's not so much that if you miss it, you can't get it back. Like, mandatory camp, okay, now you might be doing something a little bit, but, voluntary OTAs, they're voluntary for a reason. They're just there for other things, right? Extended evaluation purposes. So, not going to really trip on that. I said it a ton in the video. Take everything you see out of this camp with a grain of salt. Clearly, there are some folks who are going to do what they want to do anyways. The quarterbacks looked fine. I thought Joe Flacco had some nice throws that I was able to see. Shout out to Cam Justice, her Twitter. She put out the videos. Her videos are usually pretty well done. So make sure you check her out. Fred Greetham had some nice videos up too. Same thing with Daniel Fuise from ESPN. Just from ESPN, not any affiliate. So they had some good videos up. You got to see Joe Flacco make some throws. You saw Dylan Gabriel make some throws. You saw Shedeur Sanders make some throws. You saw Kenny Pickett make some throws. I'll go back to what I said in the previous video. At this point in the offseason, all you want to see is that these guys are not throwing a ton of interceptions, not having the ball hit the ground a ton. You just want them to look normal, right? This is just a hurdle you have to clear. There's no A+, right, in OTAs. It's just pass or fail, right? And you expect everybody in this situation to be able to pass because it's set up for you to pass, right? So who looks better in OTAs? It's a pretty worthless conversation to have. I know that there's going to be tons of people willing to entertain this conversation when they know better that this is not a serious point to have any of these conversations, right? Like, maybe in training camp, we can have this conversation once we see them go up against teams that aren't the Cleveland Browns. But at this point, OTAs, it really don't matter who looked the best. Nobody should look that much better. And honestly, it's not really that possible to look that much better. It's a pass-fail thing, right? And I think all four quarterbacks passed. I know that Dylan Gabriel had the rep where he got his ball batted down by Mason Graham. Mason Graham did a great job on that play, getting his arms up. I look at that as a positive for Mason Graham instead of just an exclusively negative for Dylan Gabriel. Look, the reality is, with what the Browns are building on their defensive line, I promise you, Shedeur Sanders is going to have a couple of passes batted during the pre-offseason process. Same thing's going to happen to Joe Flacco. Same thing's going to happen to Kenny Pickett. The same way it's going to happen again to Dylan Gabriel, right? Now, does some of this have to do with Dylan Gabriel's height? Obviously, it has a little bit to do with Dylan Gabriel's height. My big thing with him being 5'11" is, can you step up in the pocket? Do you really have answers to pressure? And, when you step up, the guys in front of you get taller, and it becomes harder to throw around them. He has to figure out how he's going to adjust to that. Now, the question is he going to adjust? He might be able to find some way to get the ball off consistently. He might not. Truth is, if you look at the quarterbacks who have their passes batted at the highest rate, there's really no common denominator between all of them, right? There's some tall quarterbacks, some short quarterbacks, some medium-sized quarterbacks, some quarterbacks who don't get sacked a lot, some quarterbacks who do get sacked a lot, right? Like, it's pretty random when you look at the batted ball statistics. So acting as if height is the only thing that determines whether the ball gets batted is kind of silly. Sometimes it's just you go up against a lot of defensive lines who are good at that, right? And Mason Graham, that's one of the things that he's going to be really good at is disrupting. So I look at that as a positive for Mason Graham more than I'm going like hyper focus on it being some kind of negative for Dillon Gabriel. It was nice to see Harold Fannin play against the number one defense, score a touchdown. That was cool. But other than that, it really ain't much to read out of it. What you want to see in this OTA period is you just want to continue to see everybody pass the passable class, which is voluntary OTAs, right? What you don't want to see is somebody struggling to an extent to where the coaching staff has to do something about it because it was unexpected, right? Like, that's what you don't want to see. But as far as like what you do want to see, you just want to see everybody get through the camp as normal, stay healthy, right? Maybe make a play here or there, look good here or there. And that's really it, right? Because until the pads come on, we're not going to really be able to tell a lot about Quincy Jenkins, about Dylan Sampson, about Mason Graham, about Carson Schlesinger, even Shador Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, who are going to get 7-on-7 and non-padded 11-on-11 work. You know, it's going to be limited in what you can do because you kind of have to hide the 11-on-11 drills as installs, right? Like, you can't just run them straight up as drills because it's not allowed in the CBA. All of that being said, got out of camp what you wanted to get out of it. It's a low bar for everybody around the league as far as like getting what you want out of day one of OTAs, but the Browns cleared that bar, same as a bunch of other teams have. And you just want to see them continue to clear the bar, stay healthy. And again, look at the quarterbacks in OTAs as a pass-fail course. Nobody's going to get an A. Yeah, like this, I don't really believe in giving grades because one, if it was like a situation where we had access to the all 22 film of the practice, then maybe I would feel comfortable giving a grade if I had the script to the practice as well. But like, as far as like grading this stuff based off of like handheld footage, that just seems silly to me. Like, I'm not going to put y'all through that and try to act like we grading these quarterbacks every week. But you know, pass fail, they passed, and that's what you want to see. So y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.